Hi, we're going to introduce you to the magic of the 1-minute muffin. Grace and I love 1-minute muffins, and we like them for a lot of reasons. First of all, they're great for breakfast, especially if you've ever gotten tired of eggs. This is super, super easy. They're great to make ahead of time, and they're also great for dessert. And what's wonderful about them is it limits the portion because you're not making an entire cake. It's just one thing. So Grace is going to help me. Grace loves to make these, and the recipe we're going to use actually makes 2-minute muffins, and often I'll make 4 at a time, and we'll put them in the fridge, warm them up as we go for breakfast or for a snack. So they're super, super easy. So we're going to show you a couple tips and tricks about how to make this easy. The recipe I'm using, there's several really good recipes. One of my favorites is by Karen Sorensen at Holistically Engineered. I'm not using her recipe today. It uses almond butter. So I'm not using that, but that is one of my favorites. Craig at Ruled Me has another one that is fantastic. They're both chocolate, Karen's and Craig's. And then the one I'm using today is by Melissa at I Breathe, I'm Hungry. And it's just really easy. And it's also something you can mix the dry ingredients ahead of time and then just add the wet ingredients. So that's why I'm choosing to use it. I'll link to those in the video description. I'll also link to my Pinterest page. I have a whole Pinterest board just full of 1-minute muffins. And there's a lemon one by Carolyn at All Day I Dream About Food, and that one is really good too. But anyway, there's so many. So what we're going to start with are 3 tablespoons of almond flour. And this is really great too if you haven't made a lot of low carb treats and you're not sure if you're going to like something. You don't waste a lot of ingredients if it's not your flavor. So 3 tablespoons of almond flour. I'm making sure that I'm doing this right. 1 teaspoon of coconut flour. Now I could use oat fiber in that as well, but it's just 1 teaspoon of coconut flour. And then I'm going to use, I'm mixing all the dry ingredients. This is 1 tablespoon of granulated erythritol. Now I'm going to add a couple drops of my liquid sucralose because I don't like that cooling sensation from erythritol. You could add some drops of liquid stevia if you prefer. But we like the mix of sucralose, pure sucralose, and erythritol. Use your preferred sweetener. I'm using cocoa powder. This is just 1 tablespoon of unsweetened cocoa powder. I'm going to dump in there. And Grace, I should let you stir that. So you stir that. And then I've also got a 1/4 teaspoon of baking powder and a dash of salt. So that's baking powder and salt. We're going to throw that in there and give that a whirl. So this is the dry ingredients. I could stop now and put this in a container and store it. And I have done that before, just the dry ingredients by themselves. And then in the morning, you get up, you melt 2 tablespoons of butter. Grace melted this so she knows it's how much?
2 tablespoons.
2 tablespoons. So let's add that in. And I say butter makes it better. You could use coconut oil if you prefer. That's fine too. Just make sure it's melted. I'm going to add an egg, and Grace is going to stir that for me. And then I'm going to add a 1/4 teaspoon of vanilla extract. Just when we think we've grabbed everything before we start, we've always forgotten something. Actually, it calls for a 1/4 teaspoon. I'm going to add a 1/2 teaspoon because I love vanilla extract. I love that vanilla flavor. And then because I used less erythritol than the recipe called for, I'm going to put another 2, 3, 4 drops of that. So you stir it really well. Now it's called a 1-minute muffin because you literally cook it for 1 minute. Now Grace has been awesome and she has greased these ramekins for me ahead of time. And we like to use the ramekins because, and these are the ramekins I'm talking about. I got these at a Corningware store years ago, but they come with lids. So I can just put the lid on there and it's perfect to store in the fridge. So I put the lid on there, put it in the fridge. And Grace, once you've got that mixed up, if you want to just divide the batter between those 2 mugs. So half goes in here and half goes in there. And then we're going to show you, and we're going to literally microwave it for a minute. Now, if we weren't using those ramekins, we could use a coffee mug. This is a really big coffee mug, but you could use a regular size coffee mug as well. And you just want to grease it, put coconut oil or butter, and you can microwave it in that as well. It's going to be a little flatter and a little wider in there than it's going to be in this. So have you got it even, babe?
I'm trying.
It is difficult sometimes. Hang on. Let me get my fingers in there. We're going to just get all the goodie out. And our microwave is fairly high powered. So you can do both of them at the same time for 1 minute. Yeah. And generally, if I'm making this for us, I would have kind of tasted it to make sure that I had the sweetener right. But I'm pretty confident that that sweetener is good. All right, Gracie, put that in the microwave for a minute. Oh, wow, it is good. You rinse that finger off before somebody fusses about it. So actually, Grace, go ahead and put them both in, sweetie, because the microwave can handle it. All right, so Grace is going to put those in there. Now, since we've already got the ingredients out, and this actually was more of my husband's idea to start doing this ahead of time, because one morning I asked him to make me a 1 minute muffin, and it took about 30 minutes. And that's because you've got to get out all the various ingredients. So what we can do is ahead of time put together, these are little portion pouches that we found, I think, at Walmart. And so you put all the dry ingredients together, get up in the morning, you mix 2 tablespoons of butter.
1 egg.
1 egg. And how much vanilla extract?
As much as you want.
As much as you want. That's my girl. A 1/4 teaspoon to a 1/2 teaspoon. I used a 1/2 teaspoon. The recipe calls for a 1/4 teaspoon. So Grace and I are going to put a few of these together. Remember, I said you start with the 3 tablespoons of almond flour, and then you add, make sure I get it right, you add a teaspoon of coconut flour. This is coconut flour. I buy it in bulk, so I don't have the container. And can you hold that, Gracie? Hold it open for me, thanks. And so then after I add 1 teaspoon of coconut flour, whoops, I'm going to add a tablespoon of cocoa powder. This is unsweetened cocoa powder. Hang on, I'm coming. That minute went fast, and I should be scraping this off. I'm not being exact. No recipe is going to tell me how to cook, right? Ah, now it's sticking. Okay, and I'll add the 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder. I got cocoa powder on you, I'm sorry.
You're good.
And then I'll add the dash of salt. Yep, you can dash away. And I will add a tablespoon of the granulated sugar substitute. I'm using Swerve or erythritol. Just 1 and 1. And again, I would add the liquid sweetener because this probably won't be sweet enough. Oop, dash. So before I put all the ingredients away, I now have this all together. And probably just for safety, I would keep this in the fridge, depending on when I thought I would use it. You could also store it in the freezer. But you're going to take this out, mix it with 1 egg.
2 tablespoons of butter.
Melted butter. And how much vanilla extract?
Much as you want.
As much as you want. Anyway, these are actually going in the mail to a friend of mine, Kristie Spencer. Hey, Kristie. The other Kristie, she's my low-carb, high-fat BFF. She's in Kentucky, and I'm sending these to her so that her daughter can enjoy them for breakfast. Okay, so here are 1 minute muffins. And yeah, and you see how we could simply put the lid on them, put them in the fridge, and they're great. Or we're going to get this, and we'll show you, they pop out if you've oiled the pan pretty well. Ooh, they pop out pretty easily, and you can see that's great for 1 serving. Now, had I been real, and you can also pop it out, stick it in a Ziploc bag and freeze it. So you can freeze these already made. Sometimes when I've traveled or been away from home, I've made these, pop them out, put them in a Ziploc baggie. They travel pretty well, and then I can have cake. I also have taken them, warmed them up. I just store them in the container. I've warmed them up, taken them to work, put a little heavy cream on them. I love it with the heavy cream. Put a little heavy cream on them. And I remember one time I was eating it, and a colleague stopped me and said, "You're eating chocolate cake. What about your diet?" And I was like, "This is my diet." Love that. Anyway, here's the cake. See how awesome this looks? And you can see it steaming. I wish I had put some cream in my whipping cream dispenser, but you don't want to try a bite, do you, Grace? There's a bite for you. And I'll take a bite over here. And let's see what we got with our 1 minute muffin. And Yeah. It's our 1 minute muffin. We hope that you enjoyed them as much as we do.